Morgan Rogers' crazy price tag makes Arsenal's chance of signing him abundantly clear. Morgan Rogers has been heavily linked with a move to Arsenal recently. However, the Gunners would have to break the bank to buy him from Aston Villa. The Telegraph has revealed that Rogers is valued at a British record £130 million by Aston Villa. The fees demanded by club's 4 talented players are astronomical. Manchester City have agreed a fee for Elliot Anderson worth £116 million. The British record is currently the £125 million that Liverpool paid Newcastle United for Alexander Isak. Rogers' value is so high because he is only 23 and contracted to Villa until 2031. Last season, he scored 14 goals with 12 assists in 55 games in all competitions. Rogers helped Villa win the Europa League and finish 4th in the Premier League. If Unai Emery's side are to compete with Arsenal and Manchester City for the title, then they will need to keep Rogers. The attacking midfielder is currently at the World Cup with England. There was a debate about whether he should start ahead of Real Madrid's Jude Bellingham. Thomas Tuchel has opted for Bellingham in the attacking midfield role. However, Rogers still came off the bench in England's opening 2 games. Tuchel then played both players alongside each other against Panama. England may need Rogers to unlock Dr. Congo's defence tonight. The African side are expected to defend in a low block, just as Ghana did when earning a 0-0 draw with England in the group stage. Can anyone afford to buy Morgan Rogers? Spending big money is a gamble. Isak turned out to be a flop at Liverpool, despite the record fee paid for him. Arsenal already have the club captain, Martinodegaard, and Eberechiez as attacking midfielders. It would be expected that Rogers would play off the left in Mikel Arteta's system. The left wing is seen as the weakness in Arsenal's lineup. They only have Gabriel Martinelli and Leandro Trossard as options there. PSG definitely has the financial might to buy Rogers. However, their culture of paying big money for top players has changed. They now focus more on producing their own French players. Both United and Chelsea could pay the fee for Rogers. However, both clubs will be wary that they must abide by the Premier League's profitability and sustainability regulations. Bayern are very selective when it comes to paying big money for players. The fee Villa are demanding for Rogers would eclipse the reported £82 million that they paid Tottenham Hotspur for a Harry Kane. Even Premier League title winners need to spend big to strengthen their roster. Arsenal are being linked with Morgan Rogers and Ayal Bwadi, who are both starring for their countries at the World Cup. However, neither player would come cheaply. The Guardian has reported that Arsenal are hopeful of bringing Rogers to North London, although he could cost up to £100 million. The Gunners are also likely to make an approach to sign Ayal Bwadi from Lille. The 18-year-old Morocco midfielder is being monitored by Liverpool and could cost around £70 million. Rogers has just had a fantastic season with Aston Villa. He scored 14 goals with 12 assists in 55 games in all competitions. This helped Unai Emery's side win the Europa League and finish 4th in the Premier League. His form meant that it was often debated that he should be starting ahead of Jude Bellingham for England. However, the Real Madrid star did start against Croatia, with Rogers coming off the bench. It would be bad news for the likes of Martinodegaard and Eberechiez if Rogers were to join Arsenal. The Villa player is in demand, and there have also been reports that Paris Saint-Germain, Bayern, Chelsea, and Manchester United have been monitoring Rogers to this summer. Arsenal need to spend their money wisely. Bwadi has already played 96 times for LOSC Lille. He's one of the most highly rated prospects in soccer, and has been linked with other big clubs. PSG, Bayern, and Barcelona are also interested in the player. The Moroccan is a central midfielder who can also play in a holding role. He could be an understudy to Martin Zubimendi in Arteta's roster. Christian Norgard barely featured for the Gunners last season, so Bordy would be a younger option to the Dane. So far at the World Cup, Bordy helped Morocco draw with Brazil before defeating Scotland. PSG defeated Arsenal in the Champions League final this year. Therefore, winning the race to sign Bordy would be a boost for the Gunners. Defending the Premier League title is very important for Arsenal, but they will also be hoping to go on better in the Champions League next season. The Gunners need to spend their money wisely, as big fees do not guarantee success. After winning the Premier League, Liverpool spent £446 million in total last summer. This included £125 million to Newcastle for Alexander Isak and £116.5 million to Bayer Leverkusen for Florian Wirtz. However, both players flopped, and the Reds had a disappointing campaign. Arne Slot still managed to qualify them for the Champions League, but was quickly replaced by Andoni Iraola. How much? Arsenal learn Morgan Rogers, asking price, as Premier League title winners mull over 9-figure transfer raid on Aston Villa for England international. Arsenal have been handed a significant reality check at their pursuit of Morgan Rogers, with the Premier League champions informed that it will take a sensational 9-figure sum to prize the playmaker away from Villa Park. Mikel Arteta is desperate to freshen up his midfield options following another successful domestic campaign, but the cost of landing one of the league's brightest talents is set to test the Gunners' resolve. A massive price tag for the Gunners. Arsenal have been warned that it could cost as much as £100 million, $132 million, to sign Rodgers from Aston Villa this summer. The 23-year-old has emerged as a top target for the Gunners, according to Football.London, with Arteta eager to bolster his tactical options as the club looks to defend its Premier League crown and respond to recent Champions League heartbreak. Andrea Berta has been tasked with managing the club's recruitment strategy, and he now knows exactly what it will take to bring the England international to Emirates Stadium. With Rodgers contracted to Villa until June 2031, the Midlands club is under no pressure to sell their prized asset, forcing Arsenal to consider whether they need to offload big-name stars to fund such an ambitious swoop. Former Villa defender Alan Hutton believes that an Emery's side should demand a premium for a player who has become the beating heart of their team. Rodgers was instrumental last season as Villa pushed the eventual champions for much of the campaign, and Hutton insists that the club should not settle for anything less than a record-breaking fee. I mean, if Villa were to sell, the figure I would go with is £100 million, Hutton said in an interview with Periorix, 4-1. I don't want to sell him. I mean, he's a massive asset for them. He's a massive part of what they do. He's under contract, and Emery loves him. He can play in a number of positions, and for me, he's the link from the midfield to the attack. Arteta is reportedly a huge admirer of Rodgers' ability to progress the ball through the lines, a quality that set him apart during Villa's most successful periods last term. The midfielder's versatility allows him to operate in a traditional number 10 role or drift in from the left flank, providing the kind of creative spark that Arsenal feel could take them to the next level. Hutton expanded on the player's importance, stating, "When you look at Tielemans, Kamara, and these kinds of guys who bring the ball forward from defence and give it to the likes of Morgan Rogers, I always feel you need someone who can dribble. You need a ball carrier, somebody that can get you up the pitch, whether he plays in a 10 or from the left. He's always involved in everything that's good, and he's the guy that brings it all together for me." Addressing the eye-watering cost, Hutton added, "People might say that £100 million is a lot of money, and it is, but some of the kind of values that are getting bandied about at this moment in time is crazy." So I just feel for one of your top assets to be leaving when you don't want them to leave. It needs to be on a massive amount, because I believe under Unai Emery and where he's taking this squad, what he's trying to do and build, they're only going to get better in my opinion. Arsenal are a huge team that have won the league, and I do get the draw. Arteta, I think, is a fantastic manager as well, so I can see why his head might be turned for that reason, but it would have to be a huge figure to get him out of there.